I just saw the film this morning, and it's riveting and beautiful and wonderful. And first off, let's just congratulate you off the bat on the SAG nomination.
Thank you very
Good
much.
news. How did you get
Really
it today?
great. Well, everybody in my family goes online before they even wake up, I think. So they all knew about it. And then Leslie, my publicist, called me, and my agent, who's not here, called me, and yeah, it was great.
I think this is, what, the 13th nomination, and then obviously Golden Globes tomorrow, very inevitable. But do you enjoy the recognition amongst your peers, even though you've had it a million times over? Harvey, we visited Harvey recently, and he was so pulling for you this year because he loves this movie so much.
That's great. I'm really, yeah, he's done a wonderful job supporting us, because it's a serious movie, and even though it has a lot of stuff happening in it, it's difficult to reduce to a caption what it is about, you know.
And what an educational experience for moviegoers. What did you learn? What did you take away from Margaret?
I took away so many things. I took away an awe of people who are willing to stand up and be our leaders, because they have to be willing to take the loathing of a great segment of the population. You know, in England, it's right straight down the middle. You either love her or hate her. You think that she destroyed England, or she was responsible for its only post-war boom. There is no middle ground. She's highly, highly divisive and controversial. And I think when we do that, when we reduce people to monster or saint, we neglect who they are, their humanity. And that's what we were interested in discovering in this movie. I think the real sort of challenge to people's sensibility who didn't like her policies was imagining that she was a human being and had many sides to her. She was infuriating and high-handed with people, cruel sometimes, and yet she followed through on her convictions and didn't give a damn about the polls or how it was going to sound.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love her. Well, I want to congratulate you on your beautiful, gorgeous Vogue cover.
Oh, thank you.
And your first, right? I understand.
Yes, my first. Imagine.
Was this a fun experience for you? Because it's pretty glamorous. I mean, the pages inside. I think you were upstate New York, right?
Yes, that's right near where I live.
Unreal.
And then the other one was
this one
on location. I was shooting another film, just the last one, and that's in Charlestown, Rhode Island, which is maybe the most beautiful place.
I think I was listening to NPR the other night, and I heard you say that you didn't really like Margaret Thatcher when you came to the part. Now, I'm Irish Catholic, so I didn't like her either.
Yeah.
What was it you didn't like about her?
Well, we had a very specific set of ideas about, you know, I'm, I would say, a knee-jerk liberal, and everything that her policies were at the time, dismantling the unions and deregulating many, many industries. And yet there were so many weird things that subsequently I learned about her, which was that, yeah, she wanted to, but she didn't dismantle the national health. She understood that a national health care service was important. She was an early proponent of global warming. She understood that that was going to cost us money in the end, and so you had to pay attention to it. She was pro-choice. She was she'd be drummed out of the Conservative Party in this country.
Right.
So there were a lot of anomalies and things that made me think, you know, when we label ourselves, we limit ourselves. And to think about her in a holistic way from the beginning, what formed this ironclad conviction, and what events in the war made her the way she was, and what events in being the first woman in any room, and the one who got to be called the boss.
Yeah.
What was that like?
In this movie, we see Thatcher as one woman among so many men. I mean, there are so many scenes where, you know, the scene where she gives the guy the dressing down, the scene where you see all the suits, and there's you with your hat and your pearls. Was that ever intimidating to you?
Yeah, it was incredibly intimidating, especially the first day of rehearsal, especially being from New Jersey, you know, an American walking in there to the rehearsal hall, and there were 200 of the finest actors who were all going to be members of parliament, military personnel, advisors. And they didn't know me, and I didn't know them, and it was really intimidating.
And you're the boss.
And I'm the boss.
Yeah.
But they were so generous, and the English have an expression, take the piss out of somebody.
Yeah.
And they did that very quickly. So we had some laughs, yeah, and
Did you have any
broke
pints?
the ice. What's that?
Did you have any pints?
Did I have any pints? Oh my God.
Guinness or Harp?
They like it warm, which is a little rough. Yeah.
Every time that you take on a role, it seems like you totally transform into the person.
Well, thank you.
It does. Like, well, why Margaret Thatcher? Why take on this role?
Why take on the first female leader in the Western world? Because there aren't that many roles like that. Like there aren't any. Yeah, this was a really interesting challenge because it looks back at a big, turbulent, colorful life from the point of view at the end of its life, at the waning end of an old lady's life. And so it's concerned almost as much with a personal story of the 3 days in that lady's life as it is with the big, famous events that she remembers when she looks back.
What did you learn about her that kind of surprised you, that you didn't know before?
Well, I learned that she didn't have a cook. I mean, she's the longest-serving prime minister in the 20th century, and she made dinner. I mean, working women all over the world will really understand how amazing that is. Especially, you know, there were no computers then, and so she took home reams of paper, boxes of things she had to go through every night. She had prodigious energy and was more prepared than anybody that she came into contact with, because she had to be, because she was the first, because if she cried, they would say, oh, see, it's a woman, she's crying. So she obliged herself not to show emotion. But in her purse, she carried little sort of inspirational cards. And one of them was by Benjamin Disraeli, another prime minister of England. And it said, never apologize for feeling, because when you do, you apologize for truth. So there were so many little interesting surprises about her, you know, about her humanity that caught me up short and made me more interested in playing someone who could at the same time be very hard, very cruel, very high-handed with people. So it's that dichotomy that's interesting.
And this was more of I guess, an intimate look into her relationship and how she was at home a little bit more.
Yes, this was about the relationship that sustained her, whether she understood how important it was to her during those heady days. Yeah, it's about the love affair with her husband.
Mm-hmm. And there were some physical challenges to playing this part. I heard that, you know, you're the hump.
Yeah, you do. You have to bend over, because I was playing someone who was 86 and emulating a certain posture that she now has. And You know, I think we all have the old person that we're going to be inside us. It's just when you relax into it, you can find it. But oh boy, during the rest of the time, I wanted to stand up straight. I wanted to do yoga, but I didn't have any time. We had so many hours.
And the makeup, how long was
Makeup was not too long. Interestingly, it's about what models do to get ready to be on the covers of magazines, frankly.
And is it true that you wanted to do this film so much that you kind of slashed your salary, gave some to charity? Is that true?
I gave my whole salary to the National Women's History Museum, which we're trying to get built in Washington. Because, you know, you got to stand up.
That's what I was going to say. Tell me about the importance of it. Why, I mean, that's an amazing thing
Well,
to do.
I think, you know, this was an iconic woman, whatever you felt about her policies. She did sort of blaze a trail in the 20th century. I remember when it was 1979, she was elected prime minister. My friends and I didn't agree with her politics, but we were secretly thrilled that this woman had been elected prime minister in England. We thought, oh man, it's just any minute here, you know. So here we are 30 years later.
Now, can you describe
40 years later. Oh well, who's counting?
Describe your process a little bit to me when you're filming it and being in character. Like, do you watch your dailies? How intense are you when it comes to taking on the role?
I did watch the dailies on this because two reasons. I wanted to make sure that elements of the old lady that I portray for about half the film were already present in the young one, and I wanted the young one to be present in the old one. And I wanted to see if they were two, you know, I didn't want them to be two distinct people. I wanted them to be the same person. And we shot wildly out of order. We had very little money to make the film. It's hard to make serious, challenging movies now. So we didn't have time to reshoot, so I had to make sure that we had everything we needed first time round.
Now, is it true you're going to be playing Hillary Clinton, upcoming film, possible? Possible?
What?
That's what I was told.
At the Kennedy Center Honors, Nora Ephron made a joke. Nora Ephron made a joke about the fact that I had played Karen Silkwood, Karen Blixen, Julia Child, and her, Nora Ephron. And she said to the Secretary of State who was sitting there, not that you don't have enough on your mind already, but watch out, because she's studying you. And she'll play you better than you play yourself.
And
it was very funny.
You look beautiful. You look beautiful on the cover of Vogue.
Oh, thank you.
How'd you like the shoot and everything coming out?
Well, I really have to thank Anna Wintour, who just a good part of that article was dedicated to the National Women's History Museum and its proponents, among them Madeleine Albright, Maya Angelou, Eleanor Holmes Norton, Senator Collins, Representative Maloney, Barbara Bush, the younger, and Tricia Nixon Cox. We had a very interesting bipartisan group, all hoping to get Congress to let us build this museum. So,
well, congratulations, you look beautiful.
Anna really did that and made it happen.
First time on the cover of Vogue, I said, no way.
Yeah, well, I had to lose weight before I got on the cover of Vogue.
Did you ever meet Margaret Thatcher when she was the Prime Minister?
No, I never did. I saw her lecture at my daughter's college. My daughter went to Northwestern, and we went one night when I took her to school and sat in the nosebleed seats. And I think it was probably 2001 or 2. And she was already older, retired, obviously, 10 years out of office. And the man who stood up in the front said she was going to speak for 45 minutes, and then she would take precisely 1/2 hour of questions, and that would be it.
And that's what she did?
And she spoke for 45 minutes to the minute. They took questions, and she went on for 1.5 hours. And she just gained in strength and stamina and clarity and coherence formidable. I remember thinking, holy God.
Making the movie
Yeah.
change your perception of Margaret Thatcher as a political leader?
Making the movie made me understand her more 360, like the whole thing. I think we tend to look at political leaders in an extremely reductive, often contemptuous way. And by doing that, by reducing what we know about them to a label, we limit our understanding of the mistakes they made, also our understanding of what they did right, maybe, in hindsight. So there's always stuff to be learned, especially many years out from an administration. But I was very surprised to learn that she didn't try to dismantle the national health. She thought that that was a right to have the national health, that she was pro-choice. I went to Washington recently and spoke to somebody who was in the room when she took Dan Quayle and President Bush down for using it as a political football. Absolutely.
For using
vehemence. Oh, yes.
Really?
Using pro-choice, yes. And that was interesting. She had people in her cabinet serving very high, close to her, in her staff, who had big homosexual scandals, and she would say, "You stand right next to me all day. That's how we'll handle this." She didn't care about that stuff. She would be drummed out of the American Conservative Party. There would be no question.
Well, and she was known for her backbone. I mean, do you think there are lessons that President Obama, for instance, could take from Margaret Thatcher?
Oh gosh, I mean, it was a completely different world. Huffington Post didn't exist, the 24-hour news cycle where you have to respond to the YouTube clip going over and over and over of the thing you said that morning is immediately out. I mean, it was a different world. So I think in a way that clarity was possible and that conviction politics were possible in a way that maybe they're not. I mean, you'd hope to think they are. But I've heard people in government lament, the cameras everywhere, because you can't make those deals. You can't, as a conservative member of your district, make a deal with somebody on the liberal side because you're dead. It's photographed, it's seen, it's done.
Right.
So we don't get those sort of Lyndon Johnson solutions anymore.
You mentioned the Huffington Post. Do you do an Ariana impersonation, and if so, can we see it?
No, and I would not dare.